this is a podcast from ELI Beamlines Laser Center. Hi everyone, welcome to ELI Beamlines. Welcome to our podcast. Our guest is Emily Erdman from our laser team. Emily, welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine too.
Good.
How long have you been working in ELI?
For a little over 4 years now.
And when did you decide to become a scientist?
When I was 15 years old, I just randomly, out of the blue, decided I would be a physicist. It was very random and strange, and I kind of was committed to the idea, and here I am.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And why did you choose physics? Why physics?
Because I didn't want to be like anybody else, and I knew that the amount of women who decided to do it was very small. So I thought it would be cool to be... Yes.
Okay, that's great information. What's your working position, Eli?
So I was hired to be a laser, optical, and electrical engineer. And now I'm a PhD student at Charles University and assistant. I think my title now is like assistant researcher, research assistant now. So I'm hopefully getting more into the science portion instead of just engineering.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what does it mean? What do you do? Can you explain us your working hours? Let's say you are
yes,
working
so
for 8 hours.
I arrive at work. I've a difficulty getting up in the morning, so around 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I will sometimes read papers or do some calculations and then go to the lab, and I will be here, really depends on the day, in the lab till maybe 6, 6:30, 7:30, depending on what's going on and if I really want to finish something.
So how long time do you spend in the lab?
Maybe 6 hours a day.
A day.
Out of the 8 that I'm here. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost 30 hours a week.
Yes.
And the rest, you are writing some articles and doing some
Yeah,
calculations?
I do. I want to do more calculations, and I'm doing some literature review, so I'm reading published articles, and a lot of times you have conversations, you have problems in the lab, so it's good to talk it out and think about what you want to do as opposed to just going down right away and doing it so that you don't make foreseeable mistakes.
Mm-hmm. And what's challenging on being a scientist?
Well, sometimes I feel like I'm not so good at it, so that can be challenging. I think it's hard because you feel like you put in so many hours and you look at the end result and you feel like it didn't really go anywhere. Like, for example, when you paint a wall, you can see the unpainted wall, and then a few hours later you see the painted wall and you feel like you did something. And when you work in the lab, it is not linear. It doesn't go like that at all. So you can spend 6 or 8 hours doing something and you see absolutely no difference and how your experiment was when you walked in the morning. So I think that can be difficult to get used to.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How did you get to ELI? Did you apply for a working position?
I did. So I did my bachelor's and master's in the United States. And at the time, I really needed a break. I knew I wanted to get my PhD, but I didn't want to do it immediately after my master's. And I still, though, wanted to be a researcher. And I applied to like 30 jobs. And I couldn't get any research position because I didn't have a PhD. And actually, my mom was helping me at the time look for work because I was writing my master's thesis. And she sent me a website from, I think, OSA, Optical Society of America, and it had all these available positions, but I don't think she realized that they were all positions in Europe. And ELI was one of them, and I read that they were looking for someone who knew lasers and electronics and optics, I think, and I was like, oh, I know what those 3 things are. So I applied, and I got the position, and I only thought I'd be here for like a year or year and a half because I wanted to go back to US for my PhD, but I ended up staying here for my PhD. So it's funny.
Okay, so you are studying PhD in Prague,
yes.
in Charles University.
Yes.
Can you compare the study in the Czech Republic and in US?
I think I can. So, for example, Charles University, I'm in the math phys department. It's quite traditional and theoretical. I was in more of an applied physics master's, so we did a lot of lab work and collaboration, and we learned about lasers and doing calculations and different software. Whereas I feel like in Charles, they do a lot of like fundamental physics and mathematics. So they're just much more theoretical focused. But also the teaching style is a little different. I had like severe trauma from one of my classes where I was forced to go to the whiteboard and just figure out how to solve problems in front of my entire class, and also the professor who was leading the problem session. I still feel like I have trauma from doing those whiteboard spur of the moment problems. That was very unique to Czech style teaching.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and do you have any dream? What would you like to invent in your scientific career? In 10 years time, in 20 years time?
I know what I would like to invent for my personal life. I would love something that could, like, while I was still sleeping, slide me out of bed and get me dressed in the morning, because I have such a hard time getting up early. For my scientific career, I think it would actually be really cool to invent something in the quantum computer world. I was studying for my state exam, and one of my topics was about quantum optics, and I actually fell in love with the field when I was studying it. It's not what I'm doing now, but I think it would be a cool area to invent something in the future in quantum computers.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I know that writing articles is a very important part of the work. Mm-hmm. How difficult for you is writing the articles?
I actually love to write. I feel like I'm a much better writer than a researcher. So if someone was in the lab and collected all this data and gave it to me to write, and that was my job, I might be okay with that. So I'm like the opposite of most physicists, where they hate to write the final article, but they love to collect the data and stuff in the lab. I think I'm a much better writer than data collector.
So are you good at writing? Are you writing something else, some stories or
I was working on a memoir, which is sort of because no one would read a memoir about myself that I wrote, but I was for a time working on kind of a satirical memoir about my escapades in Europe, actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. So you are originally from US.
Yeah.
Can you compare for us the lifestyle in US and the Czech Republic?
Yeah, I mean, in the science sphere in general, they are so obsessed with the amount of hours you work. So when I was getting my master's and going into the lab every day, my advisor, who was trying to become a tenured track professor, was probably putting in like 70, 80 hours of work a week, so maybe about double what we put here. I just feel like the balance is a little more skewed to the working hours, and your life revolves more around work. There's less vacation and maybe time for hobbies or hatha or these types of things in US. But I do think that if in the US, it's a great place to be smart and driven and motivated, because I think there are ample opportunities to make money and to do really cool creative stuff there. But I think if you want more of a balanced lifestyle, or if you're a woman and you want to have a career and family life, I think it's quite difficult to do in the United States as of now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. What about Czech food? Have you ever tried some?
Oh, of course. I love Czech food. I had to cut back because I gained some kilos my first 2 years when I ate a lot of Czech food. But yeah, I actually, my mom made dumplings when I was growing up. My mom is German, so I grew up eating the German potato dumplings quite often with pork roast and gravy and these things. But I really enjoy, for example, the kaleida. I love the sauces with dill, particularly over the hoskové knedlíky. That's like one of my favorite things. And I really love the bramboračky, potato pancakes. When I was eating them, I used to eat them in the United States as well. Here they kind of have different spices, I think, that they put in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that in Czech Republic, I think in general, lunch is more of a thing. You have your soup, And then you have your meat with your side dish. And I think that's, for me, I kind of like a big lunch. So that's been a fun crossover. In the United States, lunch is kind of just not so important. People just eat like a salad or a sandwich. So I got used to bigger lunches and smaller dinners. I think in general, Czech people eat bigger lunches and smaller dinners at night.
Mm-hmm. And have you ever tried to cook some of the Czech food?
Never. I've never cooked Czech food. I feel like at home, I'm very much, I don't cook a lot of meat. I kind of just chop up vegetables and eat it with bread and hummus or something. I like to cook, but yeah, I've never cooked Czech food. I feel like Czech food is quite difficult to make. And maybe I assume that because I've never attempted to make it before. But I know that probably some Czech babičkas would disagree that it's difficult.
Okay, and how do you spend your free time in the Czech Republic?
Well, on the weekends, I love to go for really long walks with my fiance. We live in Malá, so lately we've just been going out during the day and going on really long walks with some beer. And I actually think that the city of Prague has amazing places to walk and so many parks, so we've been trying to hit up all of those. And I really enjoy reading at home. I love listening to podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts in my free time. I do yoga. It's one of my favorite ways to kind of tune out the world and kind of get centered. I've been trying to get more into meditating as well. Being outside. It was never my thing in the United States, but since moving to Czech Republic, I love it. I've kind of grown accustomed to wanting to be outside more, so that's been really nice. And I love to read. Mm-hmm. So I read a lot of books in my free time. And
do you travel somewhere else? Because we were just talking about the capital city, Prague. So
yes.
Are you traveling to the other countries or just walking through the countryside? Or
no, I did so much traveling when I first moved to Europe. Like I felt like every other weekend I was going somewhere different, going to Poland, Germany, Slovenia, Italy, United Kingdom. And I didn't experience that much of the Czech Republic in my first year. And then after being here for a year or two, I started exploring many different parts of Czech Republic and other parts of Central Europe a little bit more. Before COVID, I feel like I was traveling a lot. I go to United States at least once or twice a year as well. Went to Vietnam for the first time a couple of years ago. And I want to plan another trip to Asia, maybe when COVID is over. So yeah, I love traveling. Just I haven't done it obviously as much in the past year as I typically would like to. But I have been enjoying the fun places to visit in the Czech Republic besides Prague as well.
For example?
I really love, I just visited Český Raj, Czech Paradise. I love Bohemian Saxon Switzerland as well. And, my fiance is from Liberec, so it's always fun to go up there. And his family has a chata close to Liberec in Hammer, kind of close to the Polish border. That's a really beautiful area. And Šumava, I've been to, really enjoyed it there.
And do you plan to stay in the Czech Republic? Because you are talking about fiance quite a lot.
Well, I definitely will be here until the end of my PhD. And we will see, I suppose, what kind of life we want. And I think it'd be fun to maybe do a postdoc somewhere, but it's hard to say where our final place will be.
And do you have any dream country? Where would you like to stay?
Well, it's hard. If I didn't consider my family or my fiance's family at all, I think it would be really cool to maybe live in Sweden or Norway or even the Netherlands or Germany. I think ultimately we probably will settle in either Czech Republic or United States just because it's nice to have someone close by. But maybe the best thing to do in an international couple is just to go somewhere really random where nobody has family. I don't know yet what the best strategy is.
All right, and I have last question for you. What is your life statement, life credo?
I think that this is what I always said when I was younger, and I suppose I completely agree, is it'll all be fine. So I think I would annoy people by saying that, but I've come to the realization that that is typically true. Even when bad things are happening, they kind of tend to work themselves out, I think, eventually.
Okay, thank you very much. So it was podcast from ELI Beamlines and our guest, Emily Erdman. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for listening our podcast and have a nice day.